What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here. Today for a little post Super Bowl NFL market update. We're going to look at just a handful of players: Burrow, Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. Short list, just to kind of see now that we are recording this Thursday evening. So we have a few days in the old books just to kind of see how things are shaking out so far. I purposely waited 3, 4, 5 days to make this video to give us a little bit of sales data, see if we can start to see how prices are trending. I don't think we're establishing floors or anything yet, like on Burrow or pullbacks on some of the Super Bowl winners, but we'll talk about it. So like, comment, subscribe, and if you want your own fancy charts and graphs, the link to Market Movers is in the description down below, along with a little fancy coupon code. Let's start with Burrow. Joey B's, Joey Burr, whatever the hell they're calling him. I see it came out afterwards that he actually, I don't know if it's actually been specific, just that he hurt his MCL on that knee injury play. And that's the opposite knee, I believe, of the one that he tore his ACL on, if my memory is correct. So a little scary there for Joey B, and I'll be curious to see how that affects his market, at least in the short term. But let's look at some of his stuff. I focused on his a couple main cards: his Prism Silver, his Optic Hollow, Prism Base, Optic Base, just for the little lower entry, and then his Orange Disco, or just the Disco. In this case, it happens to be orange, which happens to be a color match for Burrow. So those are the cards that we're looking at for Burrow. Get a little bit of everything here. I pulled PSA 10s and PSA 9s, actually, in a lot of cases. I have his silver PSA 10 Prism on a separate page by itself, so we'll get to that in a second. And not surprisingly, you could see things rise up after the AFC Championship game, and then his prices actually started to dip prior to the Super Bowl, as I think more and more people were selling, trying to get off of stuff, limit their risk leading up to the game, and there was just a little bit too much supply on the market and not enough buyers, so it caused prices to creep down a little bit. Then they obviously lost, and his stuff has pulled back even more. Now, and we'll talk about the Prism in a second, but let's kind of scroll through here. His PSA 9 Prism Silver, and once again, these numbers are going back to the AFC Championship game. The PSA 9 Silver is a weird one. One has not sold since the 12th, so we really don't have a good idea on that one. But as of that day, it was down 4%. Obviously, I think it would be down a little bit more based off what his 10 has done. We'll talk about that card in a second. His Prism Base, which got all the way up to, this says 890. I think they were regularly going for around 650, other than maybe one or two outlier sales, is back down 25% to around 400. PSA 9's down about 20%. The Orange Disco is the one that got hit the hardest. It's down 50%. That is one rogue sale on 13th, right after the game. I don't believe I've seen one sell since. So is it really down 50%? That's the last comp. I doubt you'd be able to find one for that price, but someone might have panic sold. I don't know if that was a buy it now or a auction. And the PSA 9's down 30%. That's probably more realistic. 30% drop versus a full 50% drop. His Optic Base down 14%. PSA 10 and PSA 9 both down about 10 to 15%. And then the Optic Hollow down 20%, PSA 10, and the Optic Hollow 9 down 27%. Now, both of these, once again, last sales Monday. So once again, I'm very curious to see what the next one does. We don't have that yet. I was hoping by now we would have that one, but we don't yet. Let's pop over to the silver, PSA 10. This one's down to 3,500. Once again, last sale was 213. This one ended right after the game. There are a handful running at auction right now. They're sitting at about 2K. There's some buy it now sitting at 4,500. I don't think the ones running at auction get to 3.5. I think they probably end around 3, if I had to guess. If I remember, I will link to a couple of them, maybe on a pinned comment or in the description to this video, if you want to follow along. I think as of time of recording, the one had about 36 hours left on it, and the other one had about 48 hours left on it. I think they ended over the weekend. So I'll be very curious to keep an eye on those. I think we'll have one of those will be sold by the time we get to Sunday's video for the weekly wrap-up. But obviously, this card is up 62%. Well, I'm sorry. I forgot I had this pulled way out. I was very curious to see what it had done since they had first came out. And they were around 2K and then all the way up. If we look at the last 30 days and then zoom that in a little bit more, like we did the other stuff, his silver prism is down 20%. So we can kind of see a trend here based off everything that we looked at. In general, Burrow stuff seems to be down 20% so far. I'm going to put the asterisks on that because I'm very interested to see what those couple PSA 10s running at auction this weekend end at. And I'm curious to see what the next Optic Holo ends at. His base prism is down about 25%. You know, base is a little bit trickier. It's a little different with football, though, because it is a little bit lower pop compared to basketball. But I think we will have a better idea on what the Burrow stuff is doing once those couple other silvers sell. And I don't want to put too much stock into the Prism Silver, but it is still kind of the flagship rookie card for a lot of guys, whether you kind of like it or not. I mean, obviously there's, you know, contenders, optic autos and all that sort of stuff. I'm just talking baseline card in the prime parallel. That's the one to me. That's kind of what I still use to dictate what a player's market is generally doing from a very macro level. It is not perfect. It's not going to show you everything, but it at least gives you an idea what people's vibe are for it. And especially on Burrow's, population is very low. PSA 10 pop on this is only 110. It's not like there's a ton of them out there where that's an issue. Let's look at the winners. How is their stuff done? Matthew Stafford, once again, going back to 130 on this. So right after the NFC Championship game. This is his 2009 Topps base and Topps Chrome. I did PSA 10, PSA 9, and I threw Raw in here just because when you go back on these cards, even in PSA 9 population, there's just not a lot of them. So let's go take a little scroll down here. And you can see Stafford stuff's it's kind of in a weird spot. His 2009 Topps base, that's this one, just base paper, is down 12% since the NFC Championship game to $420. What else do we have here? The Raw is down slightly. You see his Topps Chrome is up slightly. Topps Chrome base is up 47% to $1325. That's the same card, just the Chrome finish. Only pop 118 on that one. The refractor, we really don't know. There's only been one sale, so can't really put any stock into that 0% change there. And then you can see his Topps Chrome base is up 36%. Topps Chrome refractor is actually down 20%. Those are both raw cards. So Stafford a little all over the place. People not putting a lot of money into the base paper. Not surprised. But the Chrome stuff is doing okay-ish. It's up. It's not up a ton, but you did pretty okay on it if you had a PSA 10. A little bit of a big investment there at $900. PSA 9 only up 10%, but it's not like his stuff is to the moon or anything like that, which if you caught me on Dakota's live stream, Sports Cards Anonymous, the Friday before the Super Bowl, I said, I think win, lose, or draw that week leading up to the Super Bowl may be Stafford's highest prices ever. With a little bit of wiggle room there for if they won. But in general, I think this is the peak of Stafford's prices. I don't know that I necessarily see the Rams winning another Super Bowl. They could get back there. Who knows? Is Stafford a Hall of Famer? Borderline, but he probably gets in now with the ring. He has a lot of numbers. Does that do anything crazy for his card values? I don't really think so, to be honest. Sure, he's a Hall of Famer, maybe. But I just don't see it with Stafford. I don't see the long-term viability with him in regards to card prices. I think it gives him a decent floor, but I think his stuff's way overinflated right now. I don't think it maintains at these levels at all. But that's just me. I could be wrong. Who knows? I'm wrong all the time. And I could very well be wrong on this one. I do get stuff right every once in a while, but I could be wrong on this one. That's just my thoughts on Stafford. I would not, if I had Stafford, I would still be selling, unless I PC'd him or something. Or Santiago Sports Cards, you're obviously not selling Stafford. But for just your average person, I would be looking to move his stuff, take the profits, and move on to something bigger and badder. Cooper Kupp, probably the biggest winner of this whole entire thing. Really the entire football season. His cards are up more than pretty much anyone else's. His stuff has gone astronomical since the beginning of the season because he had a fantastic year, had a great playoffs, had a fantastic Super Bowl. If I'm looking at his Optic Holo PSA 10 and Prism Silver PSA 10, if we go back to, once again, that NFC Championship game, His Prism Silver's up 36%. These were actually going for $650 the night of the game, and they've pulled back a little bit. There was a couple crazy sales at $650, and then that has slowed down. His Opticalo stayed flat, 4%. And these are low pop cards. The Opticalo, there's only 27 of. And the Silver Prism, there's 220 of, and I'm guessing a lot of those got graded this year, if I had to bet. So, Kupp stuff doing extremely well. This is another one, though. I mean, how many position players really hold genuine long-term value? Not many. How many wide receivers hold really good long-term value, where their PSA 10 refractor or whatever does extremely well? I mean, obviously, you know, if you want to get into Jerry Rice territory, Randy Moss stuff still does pretty good. Megatron stuff does fairly well, considering, you know, he didn't even play necessarily an air quotes full career. And there's some other ones. I don't know that I believe Cooper Kupp is that guy. He's really good. He's really, really good. But there's been lots of really, really good wide receivers. And in general, over the long term, the sports card market doesn't necessarily care about them. Kupp is another one. I would personally just be taking my profits and move on. If it continues to go up, 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 so be it. I am willing to bet the other side of that coin that this is also one of his highest prices. You know, maybe it sits steady throughout the off season, and then once next season starts, it creeps down a little bit, depending on how he plays. There's just a lot baked into his stuff now, and I just don't believe that all of a sudden the script is going to flip and the market's going to care about position players a ton. Maybe it changes. Maybe it does. Maybe Cooper Kupp is the next Jerry Rice. Maybe he is. I'm not willing to place those bets. If I am in the Cooper Kupp for cheap, I will just take my money and move on to the next thing. But that's the way we roll around here. I'm not a Rams fan. I don't PC Cooper Kupp. So I have no vested interest in him. I don't even own any of his cards. But if I did, I can tell you right, if I did, I probably would have sold them before the Super Bowl. If I held them, I am definitely selling them now. I just don't see the long-term upside on Cooper Kupp. Last but not least, a little check-in on Aaron Donald. I went with all raw cards here just because there's very limited numbers to look at for charts and graph perspectives on Aaron Donald. Very, very low populations. In general, his stuff has been pretty flat except for his Prism base and his Prism Silver. I pulled up his Topps Chrome, which are fine. They're not the best looking cards. Really, I think if you want one, you want the Prism. Prism Silver is up 40%. Prism base is also up 40%. There was a couple PSA 10 sales, but not enough to really draw any conclusions from, because I think only one sold because they're like in the 30s for the population on these cards. This one, you know, if you're a big Rams fan or a big Aaron Donald fan, I could see it. Like, he's one of the best defensive players, one of the best defensive linemen of all time. I don't mind this one as much because he has a whole career behind him already, versus Cooper Kupp, who doesn't have that already. There's a chance Donald could retire. I don't think that's still on the plate. I know that was talked about, but I don't think that's happening now. I could be wrong, and I'm sure chat or comments will correct me. I haven't kept up on that super close, but I know there was some chatter of that at the end of the game. But his legacy is already set. So, I still think you're kind of buying high because you're buying right after the event. I think there will be a time where his market will cool if you wanted to collect him because you're a massive football fan or whatever. From a flip perspective, I would probably be selling now if you didn't have any personal attachment to the cards. I think there'll be opportunities to buy this card back cheaper later on in life. So that's kind of where we sit with the post Super Bowl market on those four guys' cards anyway. We'll do a little bit of other check-ins here on the football market as we begin to move through the off season. You know, how's Herbert's prices hanging up? How's Patrick Mahomes doing? What's Brady's stuff doing? How about the bargain basement guys? Your Bakers, your Trubiskys, that sort of stuff. One of those guys is going to pop. A lot of people seem to be on the Mitch Trubisky train, that he's going to get a job somewhere, and that would cause his prices to spike. I mean, those guys that don't have a lot of baked-in expectations, one of their stuff's going to pop. It's just a matter of guessing which one, gets the job or gets the hype behind them from the talking heads. So that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Like, comment, subscribe. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. We'll catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.